So thank you. I also want to give a shout out to Mayor Fred Henry, Council President Michael Gross, members of Council. Thank you so much for hosting us so graciously. Bless you. So you all know this in town, but for the folks who are visiting this community and at this event maybe for the first time, the community center we're in today wasn't always here. This is about 10 years old. Neither were the residences, I might add, next door or the neighboring rehabilitation center. The prior buildings on this site were part of New Jersey's industrial past. Auto parts, pottery, and chemicals, among other items, were manufactured here. Those industries are now gone, but for years their legacies remained in the form of pollution in the ground and water. PCBs, pesticides, petroleum, hydrocarbons, and more. But through partnerships among the city of South Amboy, the state, and private investors, this once barren brownfield is now a community anchor. What was once an albatross around South Amboy's neck is now contributing to its fiscal well-being and helping local property taxpayers in the process. All across our state are sites that look like this one did just a few years ago, and which through renewed partnerships and focused incentives can look like this one does now. All we need to do is to create the new programs that will allow these sites to be remediated and redeveloped. As part of our vision for the next generation of state tax incentive programs, sites like this can be given a second chance. We've proposed eventually replacing the current brownfields remediation and development grants with a competitive tax credit. This new credit, which would be capped overall at $20 million annually, and importantly, at no more than $4 million per award, will aim to clean more contaminated sites and create more jobs. Like our other proposals, this credit will not aim to carry the entire cost of a project, but to close funding gaps in a responsible and sustainable way. It will be transparent and accountable. And by ensuring that workers get paid prevailing wages, it will help boost our middle class. Moreover, and this is important, instead of benefiting mostly larger sites, this new competitive grant will provide greater flexibility for communities where smaller brownfields are no less in need of attention and no less capable of delivering back real benefits for their residents and taxpayers. Alongside other programs and initiatives led by the Economic Development Authority and the Department of Environmental Protection, we will have a more robust statewide remediation and development program. We'll be able to do more good in more communities. This is the type of smartly designed and smartly deployed incentive I spoke of in my budget address 6 days ago. This community center shows the promise. We should also let it show us the way. With every brownfield we reclaim, we can create the new ratables that communities need to raise property values and protect their property taxpayers without the sprawl that they don't need. I remain committed to working with the Speaker, as always, Senate President Sweeney, our colleagues in the legislature, and with leaders in communities across our state to put into place the smart incentive programs that will help us make our communities even better places to live, to work, and as I looked at the gym coming by in here, to play. It is now my distinct honor, again, to introduce a partner in governing this great state, a really great guy, a great leader, and you know him well because he's in his backyard, Assembly Speaker Craig Coughlin.
Sit down. Well, you guys know me forever. Sit down. Look, it's a pleasure to be here and to welcome Governor Murphy and Commissioner McCabe. This is not just in my district, Governor. This is the town I grew up in for about 35 years of my life. And the place where we're at right now, I remember it being, as many of you do, I know Fred, I see Fred and Mickey shaking their heads, was abandoned, effectively abandoned old factories and weeds and dump sites that were not done in the usual way. They're just where you put crap. And, you know, on the path to Frog Hollow as I was a little boy. So what has happened here and on this site is a testament to the good governance of the city of South Amboy, terrific leadership from Mayor Henry and Mayor O'Leary before him, and the city council in making this a special project, and finding a terrific partner in Woodmont Properties. I know Steve Santola is here from Woodmont. And the South Amboy folks just rave about the work that you folks did and the partnership that you've built, and it's really the best of everything. And so I thank the YMCA, Rose, I see you over there. I think I owe you a phone call, for the great work that you do and the great building and facility that you have here today. South Amboy is at the forefront and the center of economic development in our community, and it's the perfect location to discuss further economic prosperity and growth. The South Amboy passenger ferry will soon be a reality, and I'd like to thank the Governor and Senate President who helping me last year secure $750,000 for the final architectural design for the ferry terminal. A few more million for the building, and we got something going here. But we're here to discuss, and South Amboy right now is in the process of doing what it can to attract the green industry in the form of wind assembly here right on the waterfront as well, because it's so important that we take another property that here in South Amboy has been there as part of the legacy of the industrial strength that the community once had and turn it into something good for the future. And lastly, we're on the cusp of refurbishing and completing a number of projects here in the town that wouldn't have been possible without funding in the fiscal year 19 budget. So thanks everybody for helping do that. The EPA deserves credit for being a partner in the 19th District. The Brownfield Development Area program particularly has provided 4 of the district's 5 communities with millions of dollars in new tax ratables, open spaces, including a gas power plant in Woodbridge, 3 mega logistics warehouses in Perth Amboy, a public marina and future ferry terminal in Carteret, and the future site of a mega 500-acre mixed-use project in Sayreville that continues to proceed. Those projects will not only generate millions of dollars in ratable and in public space, but also thousands of jobs. It's no secret that our state's industrial past has made many waterfront properties underutilized. And it's important that we do what we can to get these properties back on the tax rolls to use as open space and other development. We want places like South Amboy to be where people choose to work and to live and to play, and projects like the place where I'm standing right now, I'm certain we can make that kind of dream repeated throughout the state. I'm confident in the upcoming weeks as we work through the process of understanding the governor's proposal relative to tax incentives and the existing the programs that are in place, and coming up with the new ones, because as you know, we need to redo them by July. We're going to come up with something that does really terrific things for the state of New Jersey. So thanks everybody for coming out. Thanks, Governor, for being here. We always like when we have a governor in South Amboy.
I love it, man. Thank you. Well said, man. Thank you, Speaker. It is good to be in the town you grew up in. It's an honor to be with you. Again, he's been my congressman since the moment I stepped foot in New Jersey. He's a dear friend. He is one of the most important congressmen, not just in our delegation, of which he is the dean in the Democratic side, but he is one of the most important leaders in our party in the country. Please help me welcome Congressman Frank Pallone.
Thank you, Thank you. I wanted to first, if I can, pay homage to the mayor and council, because you really have done such a great job. And you know, it's been so many things were already mentioned, but you know, I think about the fact that we started with the transportation center years ago being upgraded. Now the ferry service, the Y. I mean, there's so many things. You look on your business district, it's just looks fantastic. In many ways, I think that South Amboy is sort of an example of what we want to happen throughout the congressional district, and is happening. And this community center, I always use this community center as an example for other towns. Like Piscataway now is putting one up. Carteret, Hazlet, Woodbridge, of course, has been great. So I just, I have to start out by saying what a great job you all do. But I'm just happy to be here with the governor and the speaker because of what's being proposed here with brownfields. Brownfields is always been, well, at least for the last 20 years, has been both federal and state. It started out just being state as a way of cleaning up hazardous waste sites, and Democrats in general, but you know, the two gentlemen up here, the governor and the speaker, have always prioritized environmental concerns and hazardous waste cleanup as part of their agenda. And what's being proposed today in terms of providing this tax credit program is just another manifestation of that. But at the federal level, the fact of the matter is, I can't believe I'm saying something nice about a Republican, because, you know, I usually don't. But years ago, like 20 years ago, Christy Whitman was the governor, and then she went on to become the EPA administrator. And while she was there for a very short term, because very quickly the Republicans didn't like what she was doing because she was too environmental and too liberal or whatever. But while she was there, she came up with the idea from New Jersey, where they had a good brownfields program, of trying to do a federal program. And she approached me, and on a bipartisan basis, this was at a time when everything was Republican in Washington, right? The House, the Senate. But I worked with her, and we put together a federal brownfields program, which was enacted into law. It was the only environmental program that the Bush administration ever signed. That was it, okay? And so, you know, that was tremendously successful in cleaning up sites all over the country and helping states, giving them federal dollars for their brownfields programs. And, you know, brownfields is not just an environmental program, it's a job creation, it's an infrastructure program, because it creates jobs and it, you know, puts up beautiful makes it possible to put up beautiful buildings like this and redevelop you know, areas around the country which were just lying fallow, as the speaker said. So that went along for a number of years, and then last year it was about to expire, and again, last year, remember, all Republicans, no Democrats, right, in charge in Washington. So I worked in our committee, because this is within our Energy and Commerce Committee, to do a reauthorization of the Brownfields program at the federal level, which was signed by President Trump, believe it or not, in March. And it actually increased the amount of money that was available and made it more flexible, so you could use the money for smaller projects, and you could use it for the design and not just the actual construction. But now we're looking forward to an infrastructure bill. If you remember, when Trump ran against Hillary Clinton, they both said they wanted a major infrastructure bill.
remember that, by the way.
But it never happened, right? This is what they want to use for Gateway and for other things, but it never happened. Now, because the Democrats are in the majority, thanks to these guys, because you all helped us get there by electing more Democrats from our state, 4 more to be exact, now we think that we can push for a major infrastructure program, and part of that, called the LIFT Act, is a bill that is in our committee that would expand the Brownfields program even more, provide more funding, okay? And at the same time, we're trying to reauthorize the Superfund. And I won't keep talking, but Brownfields is for those sites that are not as hazardous as the Superfund. The Superfund is the ones that are kind of really bad. But the Republicans let the Superfund tax on oil and chemical companies expire when Gingrich was a speaker like 20 years ago. So we need to put that back into place because there's no Superfund. So what we're hoping is this new Democratic majority can reenact the Superfund, create a pool of money again from a tax on the oil and chemical industry that's used for the major Superfund projects, put that in with the infrastructure bill that has a more expansive brownfields program, and we all live happily ever after, and help the state so you don't have to constantly, you know, put up your own money for this, which is always difficult. So we'll spend the federal dollars instead of the state. So that's where we are. I just wanted to be here today to talk about all this because I think it's so important in terms of environmental cleanup, in terms of, you know, redeveloping areas to put up beautiful buildings like this that help the community. And I really appreciate the fact that our leaders on the state level have prioritized this, both in the past and now with our Governor Murphy and with Speaker Coughlin. So, and with you too, because you've been great too, Commissioner. So thanks again. And with that, I'll introduce Commissioner McCray.
I have to, as Catherine comes up, first of all, Frank, thank you for everything you do for our state and for our country. Secondly, the Speaker and I, to the best of our ability, we just discussed the fact that 2 NJ Transit trains have passed by while we're speaking, and to the best of our knowledge, they're both on time. It is a distinct honor to help introduce, as Frank alluded to, our Commissioner for the Department of Environmental Protection. And importantly, not only is Catherine doing extraordinary work in New Jersey, but as Frank alluded, she has worn the federal hat at the EPA administration at many different capacities over the years. It's an honor to have you with us today. Please, Catherine.
Thank you, Governor. And good morning, everyone. Thank you all for coming out today. What a gorgeous Y. I have been a lifelong member of various Ys in the places that I've lived. I've never seen a better Y than this, so congratulations. So as DEP Commissioner here in New Jersey, I always welcome the opportunity to get out into our communities and to talk to the people and to see the results of the hard work that the professionals at DEP do every day to try to help programs like Brownfields bring good news back to communities. Brownfields restoration is particularly important work here in New Jersey, restoring our many, many old industrial sites. I understand this used to be an industrial park, this area here. And when they become contaminated, they need cleanup. They're a blight on the community. I understand there were 3 abandoned buildings was the last breath of the former industrial park here. And it's really hard to believe that only 10 years ago, or maybe 12, depending on how long construction took, that was the case when you look at what we've got today. The soil and the groundwater, as the governor said, were both contaminated with lots of chemical soup, PCBs and organics and pesticides and metal and oil, and the contaminated soil is all gone now. It's been removed and the site's been cleaned up, and what we have instead is housing, healthcare, and recreational opportunities for the community. So this is the South Amboy Lower Broadway redevelopment area, and this is the anchor. It's great news for the community and for the environment and for our economy. So from an environmental perspective, Brownfield's redevelopment not only removes the contamination, but it also has some other benefits. Every acre that we do of brownfield redevelopment in the state, on average, saves us 5 acres of our precious green space. It improves water quality by reducing the stormwater runoff because we do a good job of installing the new controls, unlike what we did 100 years ago when we were first founding this place. It reduces air emissions as well, and greenhouse gases, which contribute to climate change, because those are closely related to the transportation that is associated with our infrastructure. And it's particularly terrific that you're located near the transit here, because that's what we look for in Brownfields redevelopment. From an economic perspective, Brownfields redevelopment often increases the value of the surrounding properties, as well as creating new jobs and positively impacting the local economy. I understand that here, the South Amboy redevelopment created 500 temporary jobs in the construction phase and 100 new permanent jobs. And the new tax revenue from the properties is expected to total almost $1 million. That is a really great success. So a brownfields redevelopment project like this can act as a catalyst for promoting and spreading the economic development that you start here into the larger community. So I want to thank and congratulate everyone who worked so hard to bring this dream to a reality here in South Amboy. I also want to thank Bill Linder, who couldn't be with us today because he's out busily cleaning up another brownfield site, but Bill heads our brownfields program for the DEP, and he and others very strongly believe that the best recipe for successful brownfields restoration is working closely with the community members, because the community members know best what the community needs and what will work or not work in our communities. We've had great success with Bill and his crew in working with the communities on successful brownfield redevelopment projects around the state, not just here in South Amboy, also in Perth Amboy, in Camden, in Newark, and Trenton. And I want to thank the governor
Thank you, ma'am.
And I want to thank Speaker Coughlin and Congressman Pallone, who has been my hero for the many years that I was in Washington, D.C., for their support of the Brownfields program here in New Jersey. It's a critical tool for delivering the social, health, and environmental benefits that all New Jersey residents deserve in their communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Well done. No, no. Thank you, Catherine, and to Bill in absentia, who does great work, and your entire team. And to each of you, thank you so much for your contribution. We'll take a couple of quick questions, if that's all right. Michael?
On the $40 million a year now, I've already heard lawmakers say that Newark alone has a greater need than that, and that's, maybe that number should be higher, so why not?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing, again, deeply held opinion here, incentives matter, and we need them, particularly ones like this. You know, I'd put this alongside, for instance, the homestead historic, preservation tax credit. We need incentives, and look at this building as an example of that. But I think uncapped incentives and unmonitored incentives, which I fear that we've had in the past, are not what we need. I'm not necessarily married to that specific number, but I think the notion of a cap and capping per project so that you ensure that you don't just hit home runs, you hit lots of singles and doubles. And again, as the speaker said, this is something I think we all conceptually want to get into the same place. How we get there, the details, where obviously that's something that we'll be hashing out over the next several months. Please.
Tomorrow, Al Alvarez is scheduled to testify from the Special Investigative Committee. 2 prosecutors' offices have declined to charge him. Do you still believe Katie Friend?
So I have nothing really new to add to this. I've said, I think, literally everything I can say on the matter. We stand with victims. I'm reading what you're reading, as I drive up here this morning. But again, nothing beyond what we've said to add. Thank you. David.
Governor, you have the Speaker of the Assembly here with you. The Senate President says that in order to reap the benefits of marijuana legalization in your budget, you need to have something passed this month. You guys any closer to a deal?
I'll give you my answer, and the speaker can give his. It's the same answer I gave you, I think, when you asked me on Friday. I think we're very close. I remain optimistic. I, too, want to see this done, as long as it's done right, sooner than later.
David, we have, and I don't think it's a secret, we've come to agreement on a framework for doing that, and we're putting through the final touches of a bill, which I suspect we will be able to start to work through in a more formal way in a very, very near future. I think we're close to getting it across the goal line. Like the Senate President, I would like to see us be able to do that. We have a voting session on March the 25th, and I think that would be terrific if we could get it through on that day. But as we've said, or I've said throughout the process, I think it's most important that we get this right. We're doing something that's a seismic shift in public policy, and we're creating a new industry. I think that demands that we get both of those things right, and that we make sure that it takes the time, we take the time to ensure that happens, and not be held artificially to a deadline. Although March 25th seems like a good working goal.
I echo everything the speaker said.
Follow-up is, we keep hearing reports that there's just one small hump that you got to get over. Is it the status of the commission that's going to oversee the program? Is that the one small hump that you have to get over?
I'll say one thing, if I may.
No.
I hate to disappoint you again, but we won't get into the details, but from my side at least, we're very, very close.
You sure you hate to disappoint me?
Me? Yeah. Look, there are a number of details. The bill, I think the last draft I saw was a couple hundred pages long. there's many, many details in it. We've done an awful lot. This is a terrific bill that we've worked through that achieves any number of things, including social justice issues, including things like giving regular New Jerseyans the opportunity to get involved in the industry as we go forward. We've built in safeguards and protections. There's a lot that gets done in this bill, and so it's not uncommon that there's always one little more thing, one technical review thing more. So we're really working towards it, and we are very, very close to it.
Amen. So I want to just say thank you for that, Speaker. Again, to our hosts here at the Y, Rose, to you and your team. Karen, thanks for your great words. Karen is a veteran of this organization. I asked her how long she's been here, and the answer is 3 weeks. So all I can say is, Karen, you got it down, man. I'll tell you, it's been a productive 3 weeks. I also want to give a shout out to Westmont, who have been great partners here, and then Mayor Henry, Council President, members of Council, thank you for having us. Speaker Coughlin, as always, Craig, Frank Pallone, you are my hero as well, and Commissioner Catherine McCabe, thank you all so much for having us.